And I also knew that it'd be difficult because, like, you make a commitment, right? You say, yeah, Tokyo 2020, that's the goal. You've been thinking about it since Rio, and you've done a lot of things. You've fought super hard through a lot of difficult moments, but you realize that it's not for you anymore. So we were supposed to leave to Iran the following day after this last game, and I just told Glenn after the game, like, I'm not physically healthy enough to do this and mentally healthy enough to do this anymore. So I'm not going to Iran.
Damn, I do not want to be on the other side of that court returning that ball. What's up, y'all? Coach Acie here with another interview. This time around, I speak to Justin Duff, a Canadian Olympian who competed in men's volleyball at the 2016 Summer Olympic Games in Rio, Brazil. Now, Justin and I met earlier this year when he was doing some volleyball skills camps here in Ottawa, and being the crappy player that I am, I needed some help. So I got to know Justin a little bit, and aside from being a monster middle blocker, he's actually a pretty cool dude. We get to talking about his early life, his career in pro volleyball, his time on the national team, his experience at the Olympic Games, his retirement from pro ball, and what's next in his life. I hope you guys enjoy. Now, welcome to my new studio, guys, so hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, because I'm about to pump out some real quality content. So follow me along the way. Enjoy the interview, guys. You grew up in Manitoba, in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your childhood and what that was like growing up in Winnipeg.
Yeah, so I grew up in the northwest side of Winnipeg with my mom, my grandma, my two younger brothers. We were just kind of a normal family. Like, we had to work for stuff. We had to figure out our own way a lot of the time. And it must have been so difficult for my mom, who was working a full-time job, who had her mother living with her, and she was raising us. But she always tried to give us a lot of opportunities to succeed and stuff. And we just kind of grew up knowing that if we wanted to do something outside of the basics, like if we wanted to play sports, if we wanted to pursue other things, we needed to find a way to do that for ourselves. And I think it was a really nice lesson to learn.
What did your mom do for work?
She was the registrar at the Manitoba Labor Board, so she worked in labor relations. So she had a really good job. It's just she was busy and probably very stressed.
100%.
Yeah.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
You know what? I didn't think about it that much because I didn't know the possibilities. Like when you're young, you see like, okay, you have like custodians, you have school teachers, you have lawyers and doctors. Like there's like 4 or 5 jobs that you even know about. So for me, I was just like, oh, I'll figure something out and I'll fall into one of those over time.
So you're 6'7" in height. At what point in your life did you realize that you were going to be like really tall?
So I was never like the tallest kid in any of my classes.
Really?
No, I was always, one of the taller kids, but not, the tallest until about grade 10. And that's when I sprouted to like 6'3". And then I knew, okay, like maybe I'm going to be like an actual tall guy. And then by the end of grade 11, I was about 6'7", 6'6.5".
And what were your hobbies at the time?
Oh, well, I grew up just playing every sport I could. Like I loved playing baseball. That was kind of my first love. Like one of my earlier memories, I remember just drawing myself in a Yankees uniform, thinking like, I want to be the closing pitcher for the New York Yankees.
Oh, pitcher.
Oh yeah, I loved guys like Roger Clemens or Pedro Martinez or Mariano Rivera, of course. Like, that was my jam back in the day.
So tell me about volleyball. When did you first pick up a volleyball?
So the first time I even thought about volleyball was a couple guys from my baseball team started on like a community league, and they were talking about volleyball, and I was like, oh, like, I've seen that before, but they actually have leagues for that. Like that's a thing people do. So that kind of got me interested in it. And then grade 9 came around and I went to our high school and I tried out for the team and I got cut.
Oh, wow.
But it was the right, it's funny now, right? Like, I'm an Olympian in volleyball, but at the time I was terrible. I had no skills at all, and it was the right choice by that coach. But again, when I hit grade 10 and I was about 6'3", he's like, I think you can join the team now.
Now, were you applying for positions at the time, or was it just like an open tryout just to kind of get on the team?
It was an open tryout to get on the team, and you just didn't get the call at the end. Like put up a list and your name's not there, and you don't ask many questions.
So did you actually stick with like working on your volleyball game from like grade 9 to grade 10?
A little bit. There was kind of like a developmental team that was led by one of the EAs, an educational assistant, and he had a history in volleyball. He had played university at University of Winnipeg, where I eventually went. And so, yeah, it was nice to get in the gym and to learn a little bit more and just to kind of get familiar with what playing volleyball is like. Yeah.
When did you start getting actually good at volleyball?
So it would all happen real quick. So grade 10, again, I was 6'3". I was playing with the team. I was, athletic. I could jump, I could dunk and stuff. So that same EA had said, hey, Justin, there might be a future in this sport for you. I'm going to connect you with Larry McKay, who is the coach of the University of Winnipeg and my first, serious coach. And I just went out to one of these practices with these guys that were all so much better than me.
Oh, wow. What about the other sports, though? Were there any other sports where your coaches thought you might excel in?
Well, again, I grew up playing baseball and hockey, and I was, in hockey, I was always kind of like a mid-level guy. Like, I wasn't spectacular, wasn't bad. Like, I could always do my job, but I knew, I wasn't going to be, a star hockey player, because that's a very serious sport in Canada, and if you're starting at, 10 years old, which I did, or 9, you're pretty far behind the time. Like, you need to catch up a lot. Baseball, I was really good until I hit my big growth spurt. So maybe that was between grade 7 and 8, where I kind of went from 5'6" to 5'10", and then I had no coordination whatsoever. Oh, yeah. I went from throwing I was, I guess, 12 years old. I was throwing 66 mile an hour fastballs, and then the next year was 56. Oh. So that's a coordination problem.
Were the Jets still around when you were growing up?
So yeah, when I was super young, when I first started playing hockey, so yeah, around 9, the Jets were still around, but it might have been their last season. So I didn't grow up following the Jets so much. I just knew that everyone in Winnipeg loved the Jets.
They must have been pretty disappointed.
Oh, it was terrible. For even 10 years later. So I think they were gone for 15 years total. But we would go to our high school hockey games, and every time there would be a "Go Jets Go" chant that just started out of nowhere, sometime in the middle of the second or third period. Oh, "Go man. Jets Go!" And we're like, okay, yeah, that's what we're doing.
Why'd they lose the team anyways? Was it a money thing?
I think it was a financial issue, maybe some kind of economic problem in the city, but also the American dollar was really, really strong at the time. The Canadian was not so much, so I think it's kind of a complicated issue. Also an old stadium.
That's true. But they ended up moving where, to Phoenix?
Yeah, to Phoenix, Arizona, which was actually kind of weird because, I was, 10 or 11 at the time, and I was getting all these, kind of media, marketing, Phoenix Coyotes, if you were a Jets fan, you should be a Coyotes fan. And we're like, well, but Winnipeg and Phoenix couldn't be any less similar.
So you're playing volleyball now in high school, you're playing a little bit in university. At what point in your career did the opportunity of playing professionally present itself to you? Okay,
so I'll just go back a little bit to, I got connected with this really good club team through the EA at our school. His name was Chico. And, they also saw Justin, you have potential. You're terrible right now, comparatively to some of the other kids who are much more developed, but you should stick with it. So I kept doing that for a couple of years, got better, eventually earned a starting spot. I got invited to the junior national team after my senior year of high school. So we were in Edmonton, we had a tryout, picked 14 guys, 12 traveled to Mexico. I was one of those 12. And then I committed to go to the University of Winnipeg. So I spent my first year, oddly enough, on the bench. So I barely played at all, but we were really, really good, and we ended up winning the national championship that year.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and I was in there for 1 point in the final game against I forget, University of Alberta, and I went up and just smashed a ball off the chest of their setter. The ball came right over and landed perfectly on our end line. So the only point I played in that game, I scored on ourselves. And the coach just saw that I was too scared and made the call after that.
Oh yeah, I remember when I used to play volleyball for my high school team too, and every time I'd turn over to my coach, and if my coach was going like this, the worst feeling ever.
Yeah.
Oh man. So this was the junior team, was that below 18, I guess? Or?
Yeah, I think it was grade 12 and first year university.
Okay.
That was kind of the age group at the time. And so I was in grade 12. It was mostly grade 12s that were picked. Pretty young team comparatively.
And you were middle blocking?
I was a middle blocker the whole time, yeah.
You've played all over the world.
Yeah.
If we fast forward a little bit, what was it like getting a chance to not only travel the world, but to play and to get paid for something that you love to do?
Yeah, so that was something I'd never thought of when I was a kid. As I said, I thought there were only a few different careers. You got to pick one of them, but when it became clear throughout university that I had a chance to be with the national team and I had a chance to maybe play pro, it just a whole different world opened up to me. Like I had never actually even been on a plane until first year university when we were traveling out west, and I was like, all right, like you guys aren't scared of this? You guys have done this before? Like here I am just, I'm in the seat like tapping and nervous. And so when I had my first chance to go and play in Austria, like it felt so surreal, like actually landing there. Like someone was picking me up from, my home in Winnipeg, bringing me to Austria with the intention of paying me to play. And it's like too much to take in,
You said that you were terrible for a little while when you were playing, and you still got invited to the junior national team. So I think you're being a little modest there. But at what point in your head did it turn around for you? Did you feel like, okay, I could actually do something with this? I could be one of the greats in this sport in this country.
Yeah. So I think my fourth year university was when things changed, because I kept getting better, but my competition would get better because I'd be like advanced to that next level. So like at the end of our 16U at nationals, I was like, okay, I'm getting a chance of it. 17U, we were playing 17, 18. So it's like, again, you're kind of at the bottom. 18U, okay, I was playing good. Then university comes and it's like, you're at the bottom again. So I had so many times where I was like, catching up and then doing well. And then it's like, all right, big change. And you have to be at the bottom again. So.
But you were starting, right? At that point, were you starting yet?
I was starting, it depends, right? Like, sort of starting. I started with the provincial team at 16U, which was good. We won nationals. I started with, some of the 17U, 18U club teams. My first year university, I didn't start, but my second year, third year, of course I was. And then my fourth year, I was a first team All-Canadian, and I was, like, a real key piece of that team. Like, where it was the first time where I was getting, tons of sets, and, like, how I performed made a huge impact on how the team performed.
So, tell me about the process of joining the national team. You've been on the national team for about 10 years now.
Yeah.
Take me right back to the beginning. How did you get recruited?
Okay, so you kind of get onto their, map through the junior club. So when I made junior national team, it was known, all right, like this guy probably has some kind of potential. After my third year of university, I was invited to the senior national B team tryouts. So that's kind of how it goes. It's like you have the A team, that's like the top, 12 to 16 guys in Canada that are going to compete at all the major tournaments. Then you have the B team, which would be like, okay, maybe 16 to 30. So it's a second team. They may compete in some other tournaments. And they were like, yeah, Justin, you should come try out for this. I said, sure, of course. And I ended up making the team.
The B team, right?
The B team,
okay.
yeah. And I traveled to, I think it's Puerto Rico for a tournament that was kind of a mix of A and B team guys. And then I traveled to the World University Games in Serbia. So that was really cool. That was full, B team. Everyone had to be in university or 1 year removed.
Okay.
Yeah. And then again, after my fourth year of university went really well, I got invited to try out for the B team one more time. And in our interview, Glenn said, hey, we want to have you back with the B team. And I was like, I really want to be in the A team. What do I need to do? Mm-hmm. So I kind of pushed myself there, and I ended up, I spent the summer with the B team, but then by the end of the summer, I was chosen to go and represent Canada at the World Championships in Italy. So that was an A team event.
Talk to me about how big of an accomplishment this was for you at the time.
It was huge, of course. Like, it's a lot of validation. Like, I knew that I was playing well and that I, had a lot of room still to grow. So to be named to these rosters or just to be a part of the program, it's cool. But I was a little bit like uneducated about it in that sense, where like I thought that I deserved it, and like, yeah, okay, I did deserve it, but I felt maybe entitled is the better word, when there was still so much more that I needed to learn and so much more that I needed to do. But I was just like, yeah, I keep advancing. I'm going to be awesome. I'm going to keep being awesome. And so that was that's a big lesson to learn, and it only really comes with reflection.
Talk to me about the level of competition at that level, because if you were going to take a spot on the national team, you're taking someone else's spot, another middle blocker's spot. So was that on your mind a lot? I mean, you were on the national team for a really long time. So did you always feel like someone was coming for your spot every single year?
No, not really. Again, that kind of goes with, I was fairly arrogant and entitled, and I was just like, yeah, this is my spot. Like, where else would I be? Are you going to be better than me? Like, no. That was so like, it's funny because then you after a long career, like as you get older and you see like really awesome young talents coming up, and you're just like, oh man, maybe this isn't as secure or safe as I thought it was. And
as you're getting older too.
yeah, so you have to really change your perspective and get the real kind of perspective. And also, I feel like a lot of times that entitlement or whatever, it's just like fear. Like you don't even want to entertain the thought because you know it's scary or you know it's challenging, and that's hard to be mature enough to deal with those thoughts, you know.
And how has your mindset changed, and when did that maturity to deal with those thoughts come?
I would say it happened just before the Olympics because that's the biggest event in any athlete's life. Like it's not even the best representation of skill. Like a world championship has the 24 best teams, so you know that all the top teams are there and you have to beat them and you have to fight against them. But the Olympics has a weird kind of qualification system where in Europe it's so difficult. Like maybe in Europe you have, I don't know, like 17 of the best 24 teams, but at the Olympics there's only 2 or 3 of them. So
because it's continent representative, right?
exactly,
Okay.
yeah. So you have representation from everywhere in the world. So like we made the Olympics. We had a really difficult qualifying run, but Mexico also made the Olympics.
Yeah.
And not to take anything away from their accomplishment, but their route it wasn't fair, like compared to some of what the European teams had to do, or some of the South American teams even, like, yeah.
Well, you guys making the Olympics was quite an accomplishment because it was the first time Canada qualified in men's volleyball in 24 years.
Yeah.
And the finish you guys finished, which is the top 5, 5th place,
Mm-hmm.
was the best finish that we've had in about over 35 years. So talk to me about that journey, that road to qualifying for the Olympics. Because, I mean, lots of people play for the national team and never ever get a chance to play for the Olympics.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that road to qualification.
So again, like you said, lots of people play for the national team, and every person that plays, gives a little bit, even if they're not, on the roster, even if they're not traveling, their experience and their presence helps other people. Like you can't just have 6 guys and make an Olympic volleyball team into that. Like there's a big pool of people, and at the time you have just a snapshot of these top 12, but they're standing on the shoulders of a lot of other people. So I grew up with learning from a lot of guys that were older, more experienced than me. They never had that Olympic experience, but they were awesome international pros, and they deserve that title of being an Olympian. It's just unfortunate that the team at that time didn't accomplish the things they needed to be there. So qualification was the hardest possible thing. I have a good story about this. So we the very first chance to qualify was at this world tournament in Japan, and 2 teams out of the top 14 teams in the world would qualify. If USA qualifies, that makes our continental qualification easier because they're
already in,
out of the picture. Yeah, exactly. So we were really strong that summer of 2015, and we were just kind of crushing all the second tier teams in the world. Like we were clearly better than them. Mm-hmm. So we were like, yeah, good. We should be on that top tier. And we knew, we just had to beat Cuba, Puerto Rico, Mexico. Like those teams are fine, but they're not as good as us.
Okay.
And we hosted this qualification event in January in Edmonton. So with all of our family and friends packed into the U of A gym, and like the Cuban guys, they had never seen snow before. So they're outside before the game, like playing, like, oh my God, what is this? And we get to the gym and we're just like expecting them to roll out the red carpet for us so we could go and just accept, like, yeah, we're Olympians, our friends and family. And they just kicked the crud out of us. It was awful. It was 3-0, the fastest game of my life. Like, never did we have a chance. And then we were just kind of stunned and standing there as they were celebrating. And then there was a medal ceremony, which is useless, just waiting around for them to tell you, yeah, so here's your silver medal that says you're officially not going to the Olympics here. Yeah, and we had a big change in our team. Our coach, who is a really great coach, Glenn Hogue, a really good program organizer, he decided that he needed to get us into sports psychology. And so he gave up a lot of power, and he's a very like power kind of authoritarian guy. Like he likes to have everything under his control, and to watch him realize that wasn't the best way for our team to be. Like I have a lot of respect for him for doing that. And so he brought in a guy here in Ottawa. His name is Kyle Paquette. He works at the University of Ottawa. And, we had a bunch of sessions with him and just learned how to better kind of control our emotional state and better prepare for our matches and make it more consistent. And yeah, we ended up going to this last chance qualifier in Japan again. It was 8 teams, 4 would qualify, but one of them had to be Asian. And there was also France and Poland who had yet to qualify from Europe. And those teams are 2 top, like they could be gold medalists and no one would be surprised.
Wow.
So basically there was 1 spot left that we could get into. And you play 7 games in 9 days, and every single one of them is a dogfight because everyone's fighting for their dream. And, we're in the 5th set against China in a must-win game, in a game that we should have won easier. Because if you win in volleyball, if you win in 3 or 4, you get like 3 big points. Okay. And if you win in 5 sets, you get 2. Oh. So every point was so important. And we just barely squeaked by, and we made it past China. And we actually had to wait for Poland, who had already qualified, to play Australia. And Australia is a decent team. Poland's a really good team. But they were done. They already qualified. Those guys went out. They had a wild party the night before. They played the complete second string. Wow. And I couldn't even watch the game. Like, I was like, no, I'm just going to wait in my hotel room. And then all of a sudden, I hear, like, screams coming from one side of the hotel. I guess their stream was a little bit quicker. Yeah. And I didn't even think about it. Just, like, went outside. We started yelling and screaming in the halls because we knew that we qualified for the Olympics. And it was just the best feeling, like our group together, being so happy for something that was so difficult.
Going into sports psychology, which is very interesting too. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
What was it about that sports psychology that did you feel that you guys needed work on? And were you guys receptive to that at the beginning? Because it's a relatively new concept, especially going into sports psychology, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really important concept, and it's not so present, especially for youth athletes, and it really should be. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of sports is dealing with negative emotions or dealing with stress or dealing with failure. And a lot of us had trouble with that. So maybe we were good volleyball players, but you receive one bad serve and all of a sudden you're receiving 2 or 3 or you're hitting a ball out. Like, kind of those mistakes kept cascading. And so for us, the sports psych was just that little bit of change in perspective that, you're going to feel these things in a game and that's okay. That's normal. Like, feelings you don't necessarily have control over. They come to you, and then what you do have control over is how you react to them. And so a lot of that was accepting those feelings and knowing, like, yeah, I'm scared. Yeah, I'm nervous. Of course I am. I'm trying to qualify for the Olympics. And then when you accept that and you acknowledge those feelings, it becomes a little bit easier to move on and to just perform.
Did you work on a lot of the you're mentioning a lot of the stuff earlier about entitlement?
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's like a barrier you'd have to break down before you even approach what you were just saying in sports psychology. Did you work on anything like that about being more humble about your game a little bit?
I think just the fact that we didn't qualify and like I was sitting in the room, like the changing room after, and we could hear the Cubans because they're just down the hall and they're celebrating and partying, and we're just dead silent. And the worst part about that is afterwards when you go to see your family and friends, like, we're Canadians, we're really nice. And they're just like, hey, good job. Like, we love you. It was the best game we ever saw. Like, too bad you didn't make it. And we're like, no, I don't think you understand how catastrophic this is to our mentality right now. So just that, like, juxtaposition of, like, how other people feel and how they interpret versus our own values and our own thoughts, that kind of changed that entitlement. That showed, like, no, there's something wrong. We need to address it. And again, I just really respect that the leader of our team, Glenn, decided to address it in the way he did, in a very difficult way for him, I'm sure.
So that must be like a really pivotal point in your career then, that loss to Cuba in Edmonton.
Oh yeah, and it made our team much better because we shifted away from that entitlement. A lot of guys were like, yeah, we obviously still have a long way to go to be the team that we want to be. And I think that if we won there, we wouldn't have done as well at the Olympic Games because we wouldn't have had the same perspective.
You wouldn't have had that dogfight mentality, I think.
Yeah, or just knowing that we're not untouchable. We are definitely vulnerable.
So talking about the Olympics, like when you looking back, how was preparing for the Olympics? Was it? It must have been really nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and it was nerve-wracking for a reason that you wouldn't expect. So every FIVB tournament is 14 players. You can bring 14. Sometimes you can only dress 12, so 2 are sitting out. But in the years leading up to the Olympics, it was 14 can be on the roster, 14 can play. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
The Olympics is 12.
Oh.
So we had 14 guys that were in the mix, maybe 15, 16. And we had qualified together. We had worked for years together. And Glenn had to make a couple cuts at the very end.
Did you feel safe at your position?
Yeah, I felt pretty comfortable because I was playing quite well at the time, and I thought, okay, like I would probably be, one of the top 3 middles that go.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But the guys that he had to cut were veterans too, like 10-year guys that had been there for a long time. They were just kind of at the end of their career, and
this is their last shot to the Olympics,
exactly.
basically.
And they did so much to build the program up, like I said before. And for him to have to cut these guys and take, a younger player who was performing better, that's hard. Really hard.
Yeah, let's talk about the Olympic experience itself.
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember about the experience, and what would you say is probably the most memorable thing about going down there and competing?
Yeah, so what do I remember about the experience? It's overwhelming, especially first time. I think second time would be much easier. But that first time you get there, there's so much distraction. Like you walk into the village and you just see every other athlete from every other country. And how the village worked, it was like a new development or something in Rio. And it had like pillars of, apartment complexes. And in the middle, there was like a nice kind of like track that you could bike on, and then some tennis courts and like ponds and stuff. So it was a really beautiful place to be. And everyone there is, a lot of beautiful people in the peak of their life, like so focused on something. And then, 10% of the people are done after day 1, 15% after day 2. And it just kind of keeps going like that, because a lot of people go there and they race in a 400-meter qualifier on Monday and they don't make it. So they're just finished.
What was the mood like then, I guess? Because, I can imagine when you guys all first arrive, like it's a good time, everyone's excited. But then when you guys get into like the heat of the competition and people are starting to get eliminated and stuff like that, did you feel the mood kind of going down a little bit?
So like we became friends with, our team was pretty tight with like the women's rugby team, who was awesome. They were rugby sevens. They ended up winning bronze, but they won bronze very early. I think it was like day 5 of the Olympics.
Okay.
And then they were all going out and partying and being like in the kind of media limelight. And of course, like they're pretty cool. We want to go hang out with them too, but we got a lot of other stuff that we need to focus on. So learning how to shift our attention and be focused on what has been so important to us. Like that was a little bit difficult, right? Because if you work for something your whole life, when you get there, it's like so easy just to be like, oh, I'm here, whatever. I'm just going to do all the fun things. But, maybe we want better. Maybe we wanted a medal. Maybe that would be even more impactful in our life. So we had to tone it down for much of that time.
How bad did you guys want it to get on that podium?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, funding in general for Canadian sports works on kind of merit.
Okay.
So like you'll be considered for funding if you're very well organized, if you show consistent results, and if you fill out the funding reports very well. So again, Glenn was such a good program coordinator, and all the guys working at Volleyball Canada, they had everything so well organized. And we had started to show from 2010 to 2016 that we went from, say, a team that was top 20 in the world to a team that was maybe top 8, top 7. And when Sports Canada sees that there's a legitimate chance that this group of people with some development and with some funding can reach the podium, they support you. But if you are that top 15, top 20, it's not worth the investment,
Would you say that was your biggest motivation at the time then? It's just because you could have either done it for Volleyball Canada, to boost your team and to boost the future prospects of your team, the medal for your own personal accomplishment. What would you say was your fire, your motivation at the time?
Yeah, like we knew we weren't a gold medal team, but we knew that we could probably get lucky and play well. And then if we are playing at our max and USA is playing at their max, they probably win most often. But if we're playing at our max and they're playing at like 90%, we can win.
Was that what happened the first game that you faced them? And you guys swept
I would say the first game we faced them, we played at our max and they played at like 70% because we just hammered them. And I feel that some of it was they weren't expecting us to play like that. And we got on a roll, and we were talented enough at the time that if we did get on a roll, it'd be very difficult to stop us. And they were shocked is how it felt. Kind of like how when we played against Cuba.
Yeah. What team impressed you the most when you were there?
Oh, I mean, we played France, and they're always so hard to play against. Like they didn't do well, which is surprising. But against us, they did quite well, and they're just so talented, and they have so many of those like fine skills, and they're like good strong rolls off hard serves normally, and then like off the block and amazing defense. So like they're really impressive for me to watch because their skills are so high level. They just didn't have a good Olympics, and that's too bad for them. But yeah, so France was definitely a team that, despite their poor finish, they just impressed me.
What was it like playing like under all the bright lights and being broadcasted to like millions around the world? Like how did that how was it like number one, how was that? Number two, how were you able to stay focused and in the moment in the games?
So like we were all pros. We'd all played in like kind of big games with lots of crowds. Never like this, but in that stadium, it's fine. You don't even think about it, or like I didn't think about it. I'm not thinking that people are watching me back home. I have no idea. It just happens.
We definitely were.
Yeah, but it just happens after. Like I remember I was playing against Italy, and I had a really bad match, and someone sent me a video on Instagram after of me getting like subbed out, and I was just like, man, come on, like I wanted to forget about that.
How did your teammates handle the pressure? Did you guys all kind of handle it together, or were some folks a little bit more nervous than other folks, or anxious about the games?
Yeah, some folks were nervous, especially in our quarterfinal against Russia. Like Russia's a very good team, and they had a lot of Olympic and a lot of World Championship experience. One of their guys, Sergei Tachuk, and I actually played with him, and I think it was his 4th Olympics.
Oh, wow.
So he's an amazing pro, and like for him, this kind of a game is just. Canada quarterfinals of the Olympics. Like I'm not phased at all.
Probably the entire Olympic experience for the Russian team was different too.
For sure.
Because I mean they've probably seen and been to the parties before, but they know that he probably knows that he's going to come back to another one too.
Yeah.
And that the party's not going to end for him, and he just keep going. So it might be easier for them to prepare for the games and kind of be in.
It might be. Whereas we're like, oh man, if we win this, we only need to win one more to get a medal. Like we have a good chance of getting a medal. But, they came out and were very professional, and we were not playing well, and we can't beat that team when we're not playing well.
So reflect back on after that, that loss in the quarterfinals. Now you guys are done in the Olympics. What were your thoughts at the time, looking back?
It was weird for me because, I didn't start that game, and I was put in after the second set, and I played really, really well. And so I was almost in a good mood, even though we lost, because for me, it was so clear that we didn't deserve to win that game. Mm-hmm. That we can't be mad at as a group. Like, too many people played poorly, and they played very well. So it's like, what am I going to be angry at that? Like, we didn't deserve it, I had a good game, and I had a lot of fun at the Olympics. The team is together. So in my mind, it was like, I think we did something nice for Canada. It was so cool to get to the Olympics in general and have everyone watching and everyone just learning to love volleyball. So my spirits were pretty high after, just being like, yeah, like this is just the start. Don't worry. Like we'll see you in Tokyo.
And you became a bit of a celebrity after that. You were mentioning to me earlier about, after games, you'd get like a whole bunch of new followers on Instagram and everything. All these messages pouring in from everywhere. Like, how was that?
Oh, it was overwhelming. Like one of the pieces of advice our sports site gave us was delete social media for the Olympics.
Okay.
Because it's a huge distraction and it's very destructive potential.
Did you?
We all started. We tried. We didn't have the social media. We went to that game against the U.S., so our first game, played amazing, beat the heck out of them, and then we went back onto social media.
Just like, let's see what's going to happen.
And it was outrageous. It'd be like, oh yeah, hundreds of new followers every hour, and like bunch of photos tagged, bunch of like it was crazy.
Yeah.
And even one of our teammates, I think he had about 2,000 followers. And during the opening ceremonies, he took this video where it was just like him on camera, like selfie style, smiling, doing like a panoramic. And he's a very nice looking guy too. But that video was trending on Instagram's front page for like #Olympics.
Wow. And
so he went up from like 2,000 followers to like 30,000 overnight. And you just see him like staring at his phone like, I don't know what to do. I had like so many instant messages, like guys, girls, everything. Like, of
course.
Yeah. It was crazy.
It's 2019 now. We're almost done 2019.
Yeah.
You're now retired from professional play.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, I mean, just 3 years removed from like the greatest volleyball experience of your life. Yeah. What happened in these past 3 years to make you decide to hang it up?
Okay, so 2017, I was playing in Greece, and I think it must have been just in January, I tore my calf muscle. Mm-hmm. So I never had a serious injury like that. Like I had a kind of a herniated disc, and that was the other most serious injury, but I had gotten over it. And I was approaching, it was a practice like just before one of our like cup final games, and I felt something in my calf like, oh, that's a weird feeling. I'm just going to ignore it and keep playing. The very next thing, I didn't even jump. I just like touched the ground, like got ready to fire and to approach on my jump, and it was like,
Oof.
and honestly, I screamed like a little child, like, ah! And my team was like, what's going on? I was just laying on the ground. They're like, Justin, what happened? I'm like, I can't even talk.
Mm.
So I tore it 3 centimeters,
Wow.
which is pretty long, but it was kind of like longitudinal. So that's like, it can heal better that way. But I ended up missing over 3 months. So even when I came back at the finals of our league finals, game 2 is when I came back, I was maybe 50%. You know, like couldn't move, couldn't be explosive, was too scared because I actually had torn it again about midway through there. That's why it was such a long recovery process in a meaningless game. So I came back to national team in May, and I was still at like 50-60%. I trained for a couple of weeks with them, and I realized like, whoa, like me at 50-60% is not good enough to beat out some of these other guys that are here. And the coach had told me like, hey, you know, Justin, I'm going to take these guys the first week of World League, but I want you to stick around. I want you to train. I want you to get better. And I was just like, you know what? I just can't do it right now. So I ended up taking that summer off, and I went and I hung out with my best friend for a few weeks and with my now wife in Abu Dhabi, went to a buddy's vacation in Croatia. It was just a really good summer for me. And to have all that time off, I actually was able to repair that muscle, because I knew that if I was back at it, I'd try to rush myself and I'd try to get into a game too quick and I'd tear it again. And you know, you never know what happens with that. So I was lucky. I got a contract in Poland that made it easy, because they told me in May as well, like, hey, we want you to come to Poland. I said, okay, good. I know I have a job. I don't need to kind of fight for it this summer, and you guys just have fun without me. Then 2018, I came back, and I was looking to, of course, join the A team again. And you know, I felt that the coach was, you know, holding it against me, the fact that I like just left in 2017, but it was also the fact that those guys are good. It's like we had a lot of good players, and it's difficult to make those choices. So if it's not clear that you're the superior player, which it absolutely was not, you know, it's tough. They had a lot of success in 2017 as well. They ended up winning a bronze medal at World League, which was like the best kind of result that Canada had ever had in that tournament. It's a legitimate tournament. Okay. So, yeah, and I had to take up this role on the B team of like that experienced kind of leader guy, and it was actually really good for me, like to get back into that humility and to understand like, no, you know what, there are a lot of things I need to work on. And I really respected the coach at that time, Stefan Antiga, who was like a very famous French volleyball player, and he had come to coach our team. And he was like, yeah, Justin, like there's a lot of things you do well, but you suck at serving. And you need to serve better if you want to be with this group. And I was like, great. Like, I thank you for just giving me a straight answer and for telling me a thing I need to work on and get better at, because that's good for me, that kind of transparency and like direction. So I went with the B team. My old university coach, Larry, was the head coach of that, and Glenn was helping out on the side just in his free time. And it was a lot of fun, like to be on the other side and to be a mentor and to help some of these younger players and to change their perspective. Like, because if you've only played university, you've only seen that level. Mm-hmm. But then if you're playing against me, like I'm much better than that. Like that stuff that you're doing is not going to work, and you need to change, you need to develop, you need to get better. So I felt like I was helping them in the program in that sense by being there and by taking it seriously. And yeah, like I just had the most fun playing there. And then we had a nice tournament in Mexico that was like great. I'm playing against teams, and they're NORCECA teams, so like North and Central America, like our zone. So they're not so strong, and like I'm playing really well, and the kids are like, whoa, like what are you doing? I'm like, look, like if you can't do this in a couple of years, then you don't deserve to be on the national team, because this is expected. This is not the level that you need to be top in the world. And so I had a lot of fun in that role, and I think it actually inspired me to do a little bit of coaching.
Now, as you're going through this, and you at the beginning of this process, beginning of 2018, you still had aspirations to be back on the A team.
Yeah.
But then you embraced your role as like the veteran leader on the B team. Did your goals change? Did you still want to be the A team at that point, or at this point did you want to embrace this part of your career now?
Oh no, goals never changed. Like I'm happy that I was able to shift my mindset and get into a good place where I wasn't just being entitled, kid anymore, being like, I deserve to be over there. No, it's just like, I'm over here. I'm going to make the best of it. And I was really proud of myself because I hadn't done that before. I hadn't, like, that was really a maturing moment for me, I would say. So, but yeah, the goal was obviously to go there, and it was up till the very end. Like, actually, I traveled with the A team to Bulgaria and to China, and I played like one match, but played quite well against France, a very good team. And the coach had told me, look, like, I don't see that I'm going to keep you with the A team, so you can like go to your pro team as soon as you want. And this was like in June or July, like, so I was like, look, I don't have a pro team, and I have this apartment that I've rented in Ottawa for the rest of the summer. Can I join the B team? Like, is that okay? So like, I actually asked him for it, and he was like, yeah, that's fine. And a few times he had me up because, a guy was injured or a guy wasn't performing well, and he wanted to like scare him a little bit. So I was able to push a bit there too and have those opportunities, but it just didn't work out at the end. He took the other guys to World Championship, and that was fine by me because I had a great summer where I got a lot better because I just had the right mentality. Yeah, so after Mexico, I was in great shape. I was playing really well, and I still didn't have a contract. And these kind of things happen, especially to Canadian players, where you kind of slip through the cracks, you don't have the right agent, or you don't have the right connection to make something work. So I came home from Mexico, and I was like, this is not fair. Like, I shouldn't be here in this city not playing professional volleyball because I could be valuable to a team. Mm-hmm. So I actually sent out a Facebook message to a manager of a team in Turkey who I knew, and his name was Tanner. And I was like, hey, Tanner, like, I know your team traditionally takes a player of my position. Are you doing that this year? And he was like, Justin, we're not sure if we're going to hire someone or not, but we do have an injury in your spot, and we could use a player right now. So he's like, yeah, we can fly you out to Ankara, and you can train with us probably for a month or 5 weeks, and we'll see what happens. And so, yeah, I totally accepted that. Within the week, I was gone to Turkey to play with this team, Halkbank. And it's one of the strongest Turkish teams traditionally. They've had a lot of success, especially in the recent years. And I just had a blast. It was good to be playing again, playing at a high level. I did a couple preseason tournaments with them and played very, very well. And unfortunately, when we got back to Ankara after our last tournament in Greece, they said, hey, we're not hiring a guy your position. And thank you, you did well here, but it's just not in the cards. And I was like, okay. So they bought me a flight back to Canada. And in the airport, Istanbul airport, I got 2 messages. One from a team in Belgium, Acie. And they said, look, we had a middle blocker who had an injury. We heard you were available and you're in good shape, so we want you to come. And then I got another one from Galatasaray, which is a team in Istanbul where I ended up going. They're like, yeah, we're looking for a middle. You're here, like, let's do it. We unfortunately couldn't get the contracts finished quick enough, so like I did have to come back to Canada, spend another week here, and then I went directly back to Istanbul and ended up having a great season playing in Turkey for a really cool club. Like Galatasaray, if you don't know, it's a huge, huge football club or like soccer club in Europe. So like their Champions League, they have tons of fans everywhere, and they have a basketball team, volleyball team, like water polo, like all the way down. And so it was just so cool to be a part of that Galatasaray experience and continue to develop as a player, and had a really nice season where we finished second in Europe at the CEV Cup. So that's like the second it's not like the Champions League, but it's one below, and we're still playing very high level teams, and we upset a very strong Russian team in Istanbul, which was so sweet. Felt great for us. Yeah. And we got third eventually in the league, so that was a really nice result for them, and I just had so much fun living in Istanbul that year.
So at that point, you probably still felt like, I mean, that's only a year removed from now.
Yeah,
you must have felt like your career was still going to be a lot longer at that point.
Yeah, like I felt like at that point I was finding my own way to, get back into the conversation of not just being with the national team, but being like a top contributing guy. Mm-hmm. And that's all I was ever really interested in. Like I don't like sitting and watching and just being like part of it or just being there for practice, like it's not my personality. I like to be playing. I like to be a member that's contributing and getting, the balls, getting the points. Like I want to be that guy. So if I can't be that guy, I'm not really interested. And so if we come to 2019, I had a really nice season. Glenn Hogue was back coaching, so of course we have a long history together, and he coaches in Turkey, so in Izmir. So he had seen me all year, how I was playing and whatnot. It was pretty good the first few weeks, and then we traveled to Brazil, and I started to kind of feel the effects of being over 30 with a full year of volleyball, and I had some issues with my back. We had kind of a new workout thing that I hadn't done before, and some issues with my knee, and just resulted in a lot of pain for me. And I'm not really like a big pills guy. Some of these professional athletes, they're doing that kind of thing, and it's not really for me. But it ended up hurting my practices a lot, and I just wasn't able to be the kind of player I needed to be. So we came back from Brazil. We went to Argentina first, and then we flew to Canada, and I ended up not really playing. I was with the A team, but I was just kind of there, and I had a talk with Glenn about it. What's going on? Do you see me being able to contribute to this team or no? Because I just need to know. And at the time, my wife as well, we knew that she was pregnant and she was working full time and she was by herself and living, with my future kid. Mm-hmm. And Glenn said, yeah, we think you can contribute, but you haven't been playing well the last couple of weeks, and we just don't think you're into it mentally. And that was really tough for me to hear. I ended up playing that day, but I got subbed out pretty quick, in the second set, because of some stupid out of rotation call that wasn't correct. But that's kind of a lesson to learn too. Things don't always end in a pretty way. A lot of times they end very abruptly and very stupidly. Mm-hmm. So after that, I knew I'm no longer willing to make the sacrifices that are required for me to have a chance at accomplishing this goal. And it was very quick, very sudden. I absolutely knew that was true for me. And I also knew that it'd be difficult because, you make a commitment, right? You say, yeah, Tokyo 2020, that's the goal. You've been thinking about it since Rio. And you've done a lot of things. You've fought super hard through a lot of difficult moments, but you realize that it's not for you anymore. So we were supposed to leave to Iran the following day after this last game. And I just told Glenn after the game, I'm not physically healthy enough to do this and mentally healthy enough to do this anymore. So I'm not going to Iran. And that was really tough to say and to go through with. And I knew there'd be repercussions. Not only would this be me leaving the national team forever, but it would also be this group of guys that I've been with for 10 years. They might have pretty bad thoughts about it, and that sucks. It's hard, and it hurts too. I had one of them say that my decision was very selfish. Mm. And this was a good friend of mine, and it stung because if your idea, if your mind frame is that the only important thing in your life is national team, being with this group and making the Olympics, you're probably not so sympathetic to those who desert that because things aren't going well for them. And that's what it was like for me. So would it have been different if I was a star guy again, a top dude? Yeah, maybe it would have been a little bit different. But knowing that I wasn't where I wanted to be, and for the chance of being where I wanted to be, I would have to give up so much more. Yeah.
So it seemed like a pretty firm decision for you at this point of your career, but is this something you still wrestle with to this day?
Again, I wasn't so healthy, and even all this summer I've had a problem with a herniated disc in my back. So, now I've only been back to playing volleyball for a few weeks, and this is, since June, really, June 10th, I think, to, December. So it's a big time without playing volleyball, probably the longest time in my, since I was 15. And I'm happy now. I have a lot of joy playing in these kind of rec intermediate tournaments or doing the coaching stuff that I've been doing. It's fun to give back to the community in that sense, because it really did give me so much.
Looking back now at your playing career, now that it's over, what's the one thing that you're gonna remember the most, or you're gonna miss the most about playing pro?
I'm gonna remember just all the places I was able to go, because growing up it didn't seem like I would get to travel much or get to do those things, and like I have such crazy stories, such crazy moments and times where I thought, wow, this is really my life. Like how'd that come to be? And it's all just because, you know, a couple people at the right time believed in me or like pushed me forward. Like it wasn't even all my actions. Like I just did the bare minimum. Like I was kind of lucky because I was talented. I was 6'7", I could jump really high, and I was like strong and fast and stuff. Like if, you know, you were given the tools to succeed, and other people brought you to the places you needed to be to succeed. That's kind of how I look at it. Like I was lucky.
It's incredible, man. So what's next for Justin Duff?
So yeah, exciting things. Like I'm going to be a dad pretty soon. So that's awesome. I'm so excited. I'm really happy, and my wife Kelly is awesome. She's been such a tough, like, you know, a hard worker, and so mentally tough throughout this whole process. And she never ever made me feel guilty for stopping to play from playing volleyball. She was always supportive, and she never even told me like that she was struggling. I had to like see it from a distance and make that decision. But so I have so much respect for her in that sense. She's gonna be an awesome mom. Right now I'm doing volleyball camps for adults. I realized there were a lot of opportunities for youth to develop and explore like new skills, or just fundamental skills, revisit them, and almost nothing for adults. Like you could just play, you know, 2 or 3 times a week, but maybe you serve 5 balls, you miss 2 of them, and like that's it. Well, you know, okay, come to me, we can serve 150 that day, and we can give you some tips and feedback on like how to do it better. So that's been super fun to me. I also want to add a youth component to that. Hopefully I can do like a not-for-profit thing, because, you know, sports kind of brings people together. Like you don't need to speak the language to be able to, you know, kick a football, shoot a basketball or something. So that's something in the future. And also I'm moving to London, Ontario with my wife and child, and probably in mid-February to start my MBA at University of Western.
What are so let's talk about your camps for a bit.
Sure.
You're going to be coaching, you're transitioning into coaching. What are some qualities that you noticed in some of the best coaches that you've had in your life, and how do you feel like you're going to be able to pull this amazing coaching that you've had and now apply it to your camps?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of very different coaches, and some of them were so knowledgeable about volleyball, and some of them were so knowledgeable about people, and others were just crazy or ridiculous or very old school. So I know that I don't want to be an old school coach. I don't think that, you know, just having someone in the gym and doing something 150 times or like 200 times repetitively and not trying to help them, just like, you know, put in the time. I think you can work smart, and that's what I want to do. I want to make it efficient for people. So I want to make sure that they're getting keys, they're getting feedback, they're getting just a lot of input, so that their output can be kind of molded instead of just, here's a gym, go wild. I know that I like people. I want to make them laugh, and I want to make them have fun. I want to make volleyball interesting to them, because if it's not interesting, it's more difficult to apply yourself. I want them to also to trust me and to feel comfortable, and I want to cultivate a space where you are exploring and learning. So if you don't perform well, it's okay. You're not supposed to perform well the first time you do something. If you are already performing well, I don't know why you're at the camp, right? Like, so that's what I'm really appreciative of. Like, I want people to come and be like, I'm going to learn a new skill. I'm going to fail, but I'm going to get better at the end of it. And that's the goal. Just improving, not they need to be the best the whole way through. That's not important to me.
Well, you're doing a great job so far, and I've been fortunate enough to help you with some of your camps and even attend some of your camps. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where you're going to take this in the future. I know it's going to be great. You're probably going to get so busy that you're going to be spread everywhere, but I'm really excited to see what's next for you in your chapter.
Oh, thanks, man.
I can tell you're going to be a great dad too, so congratulations for that.
I appreciate that.
Looking forward, and you mean our kids are going to have around the same kind of birthday actually. So if you come back
perfect.
around Ottawa, we can probably celebrate the kids' birthdays together.
Oh yeah, they got to get on that Hot Wheels triple loop thing.
Yeah, exactly. You know I have good taste
You'll
in
see
toys.
it later.
Yeah,
It's cool.
So let's just wrap up with like a quick
Sure.
rapid fire. I got a couple of questions just to shoot at you and just kind of see, just have a little bit of fun, you know, towards the end of this interview, because we talked about some really serious things. So let's have a little bit of fun right now.
Great.
So right away, favorite country you've ever played in?
Indonesia.
Nice. Name a country you'd like to visit but you've never been.
Oh, Thailand.
Thailand. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 6. Why number 6?
It was just luck. I got it. I never ever chose number 6. I just kept getting number 6 for some reason.
Well, as someone from Toronto, I appreciate that. Great kill or great block?
You know what? I've always loved the great kill, but it feels so nice to get that straight block that goes
Like right down.
and then so great block.
Best friend on the Canadian national team?
Oh, probably TJ Sanders or Daniel Jansen Van Dorn.
Oh. Favorite sport outside of volleyball?
Oh, basketball.
Okay.
I'm not so good at it, but it's a lot of fun.
I did see a video on YouTube of you dunking and like shattering a backboard.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. So have you shattered a lot of backboards in your day?
No, just one, but it made me very Winnipeg famous.
Yeah. Favorite player in basketball?
Well, I grew up kind of loving Kobe Bryant, and I really like LeBron James because his body of work and his 17-year career, and he's 35 and he looks like a god out there. Like, so I have so much respect for that. Also, Luka Doncic is sick.
Oh, he's so good right
Yeah.
now. But LeBron is like not even human.
No,
Right? When
it's
you're
a special
like,
person.
Even as a professional athlete, looking at another professional athlete, it's still like a marvel.
I did this for 10 years and I'm good.
Yeah.
He's year 17 and he looks ready to go for another 5.
Favorite workout in the gym?
Oh man, favorite workout. I mean, I guess it would be kind of a chin up.
A chin up. Okay.
Yeah.
How many can you do
Nice.
straight?
Not so many, but 10 to 12 or something.
Okay.
Well, that's what it used to be. We'll see where we're at.
Least favorite workout in the gym?
Front squat.
Oh yeah, not
tough,
fun. Not
tough
fun.
one.
You have the nickname Duff Man.
Yeah.
What's your favorite beer?
It's not Duff beer.
No.
No. Oh man, you know what? I've had so many different kind of ethnic beers. So I'll tell you a beer I also hate. It's FS in Turkey.
Okay.
Which when I was in Turkey the first time, the only beer they had basically was FS, and I was just like so sick of it. And I came back to Winnipeg after playing in Turkey for 2 years, and I went to the LCBO equivalent,
Yeah.
and I was like, "So you got any new beers?" And they're like, "Yeah, we have this new beer from Turkey." I'm like, "No, please don't be FS." And they're like, "Yeah, it's FS. How'd you know?"
Jeez.
No thanks. So just not FS.
What was bad about FS?
I think just you drink the same beer the whole year or year and a half, and you can't like it anymore. You need variety.
True. Name a guilty pleasure of yours.
I love chocolate.
Okay.
I'm a big chocolate milkshake fan, or like anything chocolate caramel, salted chocolate caramel.
Would you rather be a foot taller or a foot shorter?
I mean, if I was a foot taller, I'd probably be in the NBA.
I guess so. Yeah.
But
7'7"?
yeah, 7'7" is big.
Yeah, it's
But
huge.
a foot shorter, I would probably like airline travel a lot more. So
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
go with a foot shorter just to change it up a bit, you know?
Well, speaking of that, what are some other like tall guy problems? Hashtag tall guy problems.
Okay, so honestly, everyone thinks you hit your head on stuff, but of course you don't.
Yeah, yeah.
Like sometimes I might hit my head, but probably less than a normal person would because I'm so aware that things are at head height. Like I've been living 15 years at this height.
this
Like
body,
I know to watch myself.
One thing not many people know about you.
Oh, I guess that I'm kind of a tech nerd. Like
Okay.
I love tech. I love unboxing videos.
Okay.
I'm a big YouTube fan. So yeah, that's a little thing about me.
Yeah, so look out for Justin's new unboxing YouTube channel. What does greatness mean to you?
Greatness means the ability to come to something and to make it beautiful by your effort and your persistent effort. So to be a great player, you usually have an extraordinary passion for the game. You usually have a very strong mentality, and you're incredibly resilient. So greatness in a way is like being able to embrace failure over and over again and grow from that and learn.
One volleyball tip that you can give to all players.
Oh man. Seek people who are able to help you. So,
Like Justin Duff.
yeah, like me. Duffsport.ca, baby. No, but like if you want to learn something, if you want to learn anything, especially as an adult, like you're going to need to go out of your way and find the people that can teach it to you, and don't be scared of that. Like I love the fact that a lot of the people that come to my camps, like they're engineers or they work for the government, or like they just have other things going on, but they want to do better at a hobby that they care about. And I love that fact. I think that's greatness too. Someone that's looking to excel in multiple areas of their life. So.
Right. And last one, what's your message to the world?
What's my message to the world? Be kind to each other. You know, we're all struggling through similar problems, and it's not as easy as it appears to be. You know, and you know, give people the credit and the benefit of the doubt, because you're going to come up to a point in your life when you need that.
Thanks so much for joining, man. This was an awesome interview. I'm so fortunate and blessed to have been able to meet you and work with you, man, and for you to come here and have this interview with us and tell the world a little bit about who you are. It's been fantastic, man.
Well, Acie, I really appreciate that, man.
Hey, man, anytime, dude.
Coach Acie here. Got some ideas for content? Hit me up in the comments below. Otherwise, yo! Thanks for watching my video. It really means a lot to me. Why don't you check out some of the other ones too? While you're at it, why don't you show me some love by subscribing to the channel? I put out videos every week.